You know, when you talk about the millennial generation, it's certainly a big focus globally, but especially here in Southeast Asia, when you consider more than half the population is within that millennial generation. We were throwing out the numbers earlier on Squawk, talking about a $30 billion potential in digital commerce alone over the next 3 years. And of course, all of that provides a huge upside for payments platforms. To talk a lot more about that, we are joined by Hayashi, who is the president APAC at Adyen. Great to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
So, you know, it's interesting when we talk about millennial generation and the consuming habits, we always have a tendency to think it's all mobile, it's all online all the time. But you say not necessarily. Offline is just as important right now, too.
Yeah, really interesting. There's a big perception that millennials are always on the phone and only shopping on the phone. But the research shows that 50% of millennials actually prefer having a in-store experience to complement their shopping habits. They want to physically, go to the store and actually see the goods, touch the goods, and it's an inherent part of their shopping experience.
Adyen recently announced a new payment solution over in Europe, at least, MarketPay, teaming up with GoFundMe. I know that's not necessarily for Asia, but how important is it in an increasingly crowded space to control the entire stack? Because that's essentially what the solution does.
It's really important because if you look across all sorts of marketplace businesses, people think that marketplace is actually just buying physical goods, but in reality it's platforms that connect buyers and sellers, riders and drivers, travelers and rooms. So there's all sorts of marketplaces business out there, and it's an inherent part of the payments business, not just to collect the funds from the buyers, but to make sure that the payments actually go to the drivers or the people offering the rooms, or the individual sellers on the traditional marketplace. It's a burgeoning business model, and it's very important for us for Adyen.
I know Adyen controls the end-to-end payment solution there. And when we talk about payments in general in Asia, increasingly moving towards cashless, cardless, with AliPay, WeChat Pay, all these payments platforms. You recently announced an expansion of your partnership with AliPay. What exactly does that change? And also, how important is it to have those partnerships in place with the big Chinese players, especially considering how the payment habits are changing here?
Sure. So Adyen helps merchants reach out to consumers everywhere. And it's part of our business to make sure that we have relevant payment methods all across our platform. We have 250 payment methods built on our platform. And as you mentioned, we've had a number of Chinese payment methods. We've had UnionPay, AliPay, and WeChat Pay. From an online perspective, and the recent announcement was making sure that AliPay is on our point of sale solution, because we are offering a payment solution not just for online and mobile, but also for in-store payments.
So, I mean, increasingly, is that where we're seeing the payments going? We were talking about like the invisible payments, essentially not without cash changing hands, not even actually swiping your card anymore, but just having it on the platform and just having the money deducted. Is that kind of where the payments are,
It definitely is. And it's not just a conversation around seamless online or mobile transactions. Shoppers now want to go to the store to have a seamless checkout experience using their preferred payment methods, whether it's a traditional credit card or here, especially in Southeast Asia, there's so many other types of payment methods, whether going into a convenience store or paying through online banking. Our goal at Adyen is to help merchants reach out to consumers all over the world.
We've been talking a lot about the disruption of the payment space, but specifically digital currencies, Bitcoin, just the growth in that space. What kind of disruption does that create for a payments platform like Adyen? I mean, we're not to the point where everybody's using Bitcoin for their daily purchases, but as we see that growth, how do you have to stay a step ahead?
Yeah, so we haven't really seen Bitcoin used for retail purposes. It's really not a payment method, at least today, where a consumer will take it to buy at any retailer all over the world. But having said that, as new payment methods come up, it is our goal at Adyen to build it onto our platform if our merchants are asking for it.
How big of a concern is that in terms of the disruption that could cause? I mean, as you point out, it's not an everyday currency yet. It may not be, but I imagine there's still talk within the company to say, how do we prepare for that next phase?
We're bullish on different types of payment methods. If Bitcoin becomes a mainstream payment method, it is something that we would definitely look at adding to our platform and offer to our customers.
Okay. Moving forward, last check, Adyen's valued at what, $9 billion? There's a lot of talk about perhaps you could be an acquisition target, maybe from somebody like PayPal. Is that something that would make sense for the company?
So we don't comment on speculation in the market. And our valuation, last valuation, was actually $2.3 billion.
$2.3 billion. And where do you see the growth here in Asia? Is it going to continue to be in China, where we've seen so much growth on the payment side of things, or, you know, what's the upside here in Southeast Asia? Southeast
Asia is a big discussion for all our customers that we speak to, the 600 million shoppers, as you mentioned, that 50% are millennials. Everyone's talking about the 600 million potential shoppers here, all mobile savvy, all tech savvy. It's a big discussion. It is a big investment area for us at Adyen.
Okay, we'll continue to follow it. Warren Hayashi, thank you so much for joining us from Adyen this morning.